43.
42. 41.
40.
39.
Number 1.
39.
38.
37.
36.
35.
34.
33.
32.
31.
30. 29.
28.
27.
26.
25.
24.
23.
21.
20.
19.
18.
17. 16.
15.
14.
13.
12.
11.
10.
9. 8.
7. 6. 5.
4.
3.5.
3.
2.
1.
Hey, Rocky, you want to see me pull a show out of my hat? Nothing up my sleeve. Presto!
Hi, and welcome to the Mouthwash Talk Show, a minty, fresh take on politics. I'm your host, John Schmitz, or Johnny Tariff. That's my name on the stock market neophytes. And just a quick program note for that. We will not be having a show this Friday, but tune in for the next Friday to see our predictions. But yes, we have a show for you tonight. Ashley Grogg, I interviewed her, oh my gosh, probably over 4 years ago. About this vaccine and what was going on. So yeah, that was during the pandemic that we all barely made it through. I mean, it was tough times, shutting down my business and all that stuff. We remembered it, making people get shots and whatnot. Well, we've come a long way since 2020. And I'm sure this will be a good one that Lucy's going to enjoy because, you know, she's all about the government getting out of our way. But we wanted to see what Ashley's up to. So I had her scheduled to come on. And she actually was at the RFK deal today, Make America Healthy Again, and got to ask a question. But I'm dying to hear what she did because apparently they didn't like her question. So I'm going to be interested in seeing that. But she's an advocate for nurses and for health and all of these things that is important to us. And she's worked her tail off to build her organization to get her name out there. And we thought we'd give her some questions, and we'll give her some unrelated questions because I have a clip here that I actually stole from the Weedy Review show. If you watched that before this show at 8 o'clock, he was a little bit animated, and I just have to give him credit. He only dropped one F-bomb on this family show here. We try to keep if you want to watch the double R-rated version, watch him on Saturday nights. I did not produce that. So he did a good job tonight breaking down different things and bills and the property taxes and all the stuff that's going on. And it's been a wild one, signing, passing bills in the middle of the night and all that good stuff. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and bring on Ashley, and let's see how she's doing this evening. Ashley, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well, we just, I mean, like I said in the monologue there, you do a lot of good hard work, and a lot of it's not appreciated. And I know how that feels to be out there trying to do the right thing and sometimes swimming against the current. So tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and some background.
Yeah, so I have been a nurse for over 20 or just about 20 years. Started out in cardiac care, telemetry, advanced heart failure, helped develop a regional heart failure program up here in the Fort Wayne area, and really just left Western medicine because I was just heartbroken over the way that I saw patients being treated. I wasn't able to care for my patients the way that I wanted. They continued to get sicker. We weren't touching on the basics of care. And a lot of times they were being neglected while in the hospital. And so it was really just difficult for me to watch that and not be able to change that. I was on every committee in the hospital. And so I kind of moved more into a functional approach. And I am a board certified functional medicine practitioner. And then, I watched what happened in 2018 with the Hasidic Jewish community and also the Samoan Islands when there was a measles outbreak with some forced vaccination. And I thought, oh, golly, the Samoan Islands were doing door to door. And then the Hasidic Jewish population was locked out of synagogue during Passover. And I thought, oh, gosh, this is a dry run for something bigger. And so I started surveying the landscape and trying to decide, how could I fix this? Like patients deserve a choice. They should have the right to say no, and we should be offering solutions for everybody, regardless of what their choice is and the way that they choose to achieve health. And so I decided that politics was the best way to protect people from forced vaccination, and which was really scary for me because I was very well respected, even though I didn't vaccinate in the hospital. Like, that was the one area where I was like kind of crazy, they thought, but everywhere else, every other topic, I was the expert. They would come to me for help and all the things. And so going into a realm where I didn't know anything. I knew nothing about politics. I voted, but I asked my husband who to vote for, and then I argued with him a little bit and then did what he said anyways. And so it was very humbling. And when I learned that I didn't have to kiss backside and that I could just be myself and hold people accountable, I was like, sign me up. Politics is the thing for me, and started Hoosiers for Medical Liberty, the nonprofit, 7 days from the point when I learned that I didn't have to play the political game. I could just be myself and just call it like it is. And then COVID happened the next month. I mean, February 8th is when I signed the paperwork for the nonprofit. And then March, we closed down. And it's just been, hardcore working to provide people with the right to say no to vaccine. I mean, if you want to get one, great, that's your choice. Be informed. And if something happens, please come to me. I'll help you the best that I can, or refer you to people that can help you if you have an injury. So.
Now, I know that Micah Beckwith wrote my daughter an exemption. Were you able to do that as well? Or is that something, I can't remember how that worked.
Yeah, so Micah did a lot of religious exemptions, and while, if you feel that that's the route you need to go to get a pastor, but your religious exemption is based on your own personal belief, and so you can write your own. You don't need a
Oh,
pastor. It's actually a violation of federal law. The Civil Rights Act of 64 protects this, and they don't have the right to give you a religious exam or require you to have a pastor sign off or you to cite specific doctrine. The only time that they can kind of ask more questions is when they have doubt about the sincerity of your religious beliefs. And so simply signing, stating, in regards to an exemption, for example, you could just put, my sincerely held religious beliefs prevent me from receiving XYZ vaccines or all vaccines or whatever the case may be. And then sign it and date it and turn it in. And anything above that, unless you've given them reason to believe that it's not based on your sincerely held religious beliefs, you can tell them that basically you feel like you're being persecuted and they're discriminating against you based on your religion. Because in America, your religion could be the cat that visits your backyard once a month and gives you whatever. So I'm Catholic, and we use religious exemption because I do not believe, I prayed about this. This was a very difficult decision back in like 2014 to stop vaccinating. And I have prayed, and this is the way that God has led me. It just so happens that the science also supports concern with
yeah,
safety.
we're going to get into that. I got a couple questions about,
Sure.
the vaccine and the way they do studies and the samples and the political realm of that. And, I got into politics with the same anger you did, but a different thing. It was building inspections and city, just city mismanagement. And we've been doing this you've been doing it for almost 10 years or more. And I've been doing it for
4 or 5.
4 or 5.
I've not been
Yeah.
here that long. February of 2020 is when I started.
Okay, so yeah, 4 years. I've been doing it 6, but we've really, I feel like wheels are spinning and getting people to listen is always fun. So it looks like I got Brad ready to go back there. Hopefully he's paying attention. Looks like he's taping his cat to the floor or something. I don't know what he's doing there.
Yeah.
So Brad, and I got Tiffany. She was there a second ago.
Hi, Ashley.
Not there.
Hi, Brad. Nice to meet you.
Now, Brad,
Nice to
were
meet
you
you.
you weren't on the show last time with Ashley? I think I just did an interview with her,
I don't
and
believe
that was
so.
it.
No.
It was maybe even Do Something Indie show. That's how long ago it was.
I think Ed was on here the last time. He was the Democrat. I've been on here a couple times.
Yes.
Yeah,
I love Ed.
Yeah, he's
a dear man.
Lowe's corporate now. He's got no time for us peasants. It's terrible. He's out saving the world 2x4 at a time.
That's
And
right.
Spirit Airline went bankrupt. So I forgot to send him a message. Yeah, they were only $3 billion in debt. So you figured it was going to happen at some point. But Save Airlines, that's what it's called on the stock market, is no longer saved. They probably took a vaccine and they didn't make it. That's what got them. And that yellow plane, it looked like a flying banana. Sorry. But anyway.
I found my vaccine card the other day.
For
well, we used it for I do a event at the library called Conspiracy Crew, and we just go over. It's really just current events at this point that don't go answered the right way, or like it. We just want a more complete story on things. So we just kind of research for about an hour together and stuff, and so that was one of the topics. But yeah, as far as the vaccines go, can you kind of describe what the insurance companies' roles are, or how they view the vaccine and what sort of power they might wield? Because I feel like they're pretty big.
It's really interesting because, the crazy thing is like, it's this big circular mess of, if the information doesn't come from these 3-letter government agencies, then it's not fact. And we also see how, even I think it was 2022, Margaret Menke broke a story about the huge, like, sigma 6, whatever that means, increase in death and disability in working age people. And so you would think that the insurance companies would be recognizing this and pushing harder against industry to either avoid giving this to working age adults and focus it on the people who might actually benefit, which would be the elderly and those with multiple, like, diseases, chronic diseases, comorbidities is what they're called. And so it's really funny. I haven't heard anything come out about the insurance companies. And I did used to work for a major insurance company that dealt with Medicare, Medicaid. And my job was basically, it turned into a glorified data miner. And they were called STARS and HEDIS metrics. And these are basically preventative type screenings. And our reimbursement rates were also based on the vaccination rates of our patients. And so it's this really interesting.
So it was like incentivized almost? Or
yeah. Yeah. So my job, like, my boss really got irritated with me because I would give the best informed, quote, consent or informed decision making that I could give. And I would just be really honest, like, okay, let's talk about the shingles vaccine. Let's talk about what it does. Let's talk about what it doesn't do. Let's talk about your risk of shingles. And I would just really go over and provide education, which is what nurses are supposed to do. I'm not supposed to make a decision for you. I'm supposed to tell you the risks, the benefits, and the alternatives, and help you make a decision that's best for you, given your life circumstance, as well as, your worldviews, because let's be honest, that plays a big role in it. Different experiences that you've had in your life will shape those decisions. Micah Beckwith is a great one. He talked about a story where his mom, they felt that the polio vaccine had saved her. And, that's like a whole show in of itself. But, it's interesting to see the way that the insurance companies are recognizing that these COVID jabs have been an issue, but yet they're not saying anything. And I think that's probably, I have no evidence of this, but I think it's probably tied back into the fact that they're incentivized to make sure that these vaccines are given.
So if you have hey, welcome, Tiffany. How you doing tonight? You looking good? I got a question before Tiffany gets in here. So do you have a list of good, bad, and ugly vaccines? Do you have a list of the ones you promote? Say, okay, that's good. Because I was this close to getting the shingles vaccine, and the only reason I didn't get it because the pharmacy was out, and then all this hit the fan, and I'm like, how not? The only thing I've gotten since then is a tetanus shot. And I figured, well, I've had like 50 of those, so another one's not going to hurt me. So what's your list? What's your top 10 of ugly, good, bad, what?
So I cannot in good conscience say one way or the other. And I don't think medicine should ever be one size fits all, because everybody is different. Right now, I would have to have a really compelling case to give a positive recommendation for any vaccine at this point, because it's impossible to do the risk benefit analysis. We do not have the data, and none of the vaccines on the childhood schedule have been tested against a pure inert placebo. So that means, when they're doing these studies, they're testing them against other vaccines. They're testing them against a previous version of the vaccine. And so when you do that, like, let's take the MMR and the MMRV, so measles, mumps, rubella plus varicella, which is your chickenpox vaccine. When they did this testing, they compared MMR2, which was developed, I think, back in the late 90s, but don't quote me on that. And they compared the MMRV, which added another antigen, the virus of chickenpox. And so instead of going from a baseline of no vaccine, no risk, right? You're getting something that does not have any effect on the physiological effect on the body, to the MMR, which we know has a pretty significant risk of febrile seizures and other things, as well as, some neurological issues, and even the viruses that you're vaccinating for, because it is a live virus vaccine. So you have these risk factors. When they tested the MMRV, they compared those rates, and there was a pretty substantial increase. And if you listen to Martin Koldorf, he was on the Advisory Council for Immunization Practices, who approves these vaccines. He was the only dissenting voice against the approval of this MMRV, and it was because of that increase in risk for seizures from the MMR. And so when you're talking to the public about this, this is a negligible effect, this is only X% of an increase, it's an X% increase from the MMR. So there's that whole percentage of patients who are having vaccine adverse events, and then you add this on top of it. So it's not really a fair analysis there. And then there have never been any studies on vaccines in regards to cancer, in regards to fertility, in regards to genetic mutation or interference. And so when you take all of that together into account, it makes it really difficult to go through a risk benefit analysis of the patient. Now, if you have somebody who is in a very impoverished area, they maybe don't have access to health care, they are elderly, would they benefit from a vaccine? Maybe. But it would be really difficult without talking to that person and kind of going over those things to give a good answer. So I'm sorry, I feel like a politician.
That's okay. But Tiffany, before I get to, I want to get to an audience question here. How about this one? The fat vaccine, Ozempic. That's not a vaccine, is it? Or is
It's
it?
not a vaccine. It's not a vaccine. It is a GLP-1, is it agonist, I think? So it increases the amount of GLP-1, which is supposed to help you lose weight. These have horrendous. So before I will even look at an effectiveness of a treatment, you have to look at the risk profile, right? You have to look at, one good way to look at this is number needed to treat. So how many people have to use the product to get a benefit, and number needed to harm. And I always look at the number needed to harm first, because, how many alternative ways are there to reduce your weight? There are a lot. Cleaning up our food is a big one. Cutting back on sugar, getting regular exercise, all these things are very important to that. And so when you look at Ozempic, there are so many risks to this medication, and it's so new that I have a family member that's on it, and I'm like, look, I do not agree with this. Yeah. So.
Yep. So Tiffany, I want to let you get a question in here. Then I want to hear Ashley's story about RFK today and her question that she asked them. So
Did I answer Brad's question? Are you satisfied with what you got from me?
Oh yeah, I have like loads more, but that I could listen to this for a while.
You'll get your chance, hot shot. Just hold your horses. I got questions too for once. So
yeah. Well, Johnny Tariff. Sorry, I
know I got to
name.
put that out there.
Calling you that.
That's okay. Wow, I could be Johnny Tax Bill. I mean, there's so many things to pick for him right now. So Tiffany,
eye roll up there.
Yeah, we get that a lot, don't we, Brad? You more than I, but so Tiffany, what's up?
So nothing much. Ashley, I'm really excited that you're here. I have a couple of questions. I'll just kind of pepper them at you. Want to know if someone's had chickenpox twice, should they get the what is it? The shingles vaccine? And what are your thoughts on fluoride treatments during dental cleanings once every 6 months? We'll just start there.
Okay, so let's start with the easy question. Fluoride treatments. No. Like I have no problem saying that. No. There are so many ill effects. There's so much evidence to show that fluoride, any negligible effect that it might have in reducing the cavity burden is not worth the side effects and the risks and the ability that it has. There are lots of studies out there, and there was a huge case. I can't remember if it was this year or last year, in which basically they said that it should be removed for the water, and the EPA really needs to look at how they do things because it is not safe. And so that's what's triggered this whole flood of effort to remove fluoride from the drinking water. And there are a couple reasons for that, but the use of fluoride, first of all, it's a chemical byproduct that they're using. There's just a whole mess of things. So fluoride treatments, unless you have super brittle teeth, maybe then talking with your dentist or getting a second opinion from a biological dentist about things that you can do to improve the enamel and the strength of your teeth. A lot of that is going to be rooted in nutrition. And so we don't do fluoride. Like I lose my mind if they used fluoride at one time on one of my kids at the dentist, and I was like, this will never happen again. And that was years ago. And so fluoride, no. Shingles vaccine after having chickenpox twice. So what I'm going to say about that is if you actually had the chickenpox twice, you are probably not maintaining immunity to the chickenpox, because if you have a good viral infection, your body should be recognizing that. And so making sure that your vitamin D levels are optimized. And I don't just, recommend taking vitamin D. It is a fat soluble vitamin, so it doesn't get flushed out the way like B vitamins and stuff would. So you have to be careful that you don't overdose, but that can be very difficult in this area. I have seen it happen. But you're going to want to check into why your immune system is not either building sufficient antibodies to it or retaining those antibodies. And so you'll want to find a functional provider to kind of look into that. The problem with that is if your body is not mounting and maintaining sufficient antibody activity to the natural virus, the likelihood that you're going to have a benefit from the vaccine decreases. So you're taking all the risks with potentially no benefit. And of course, none of this is medical advice. I encourage you to talk with your physician. This is all for educational purposes only.
Hypothetical. Total hypothetical.
Just education. I mean, these are the questions that you should go talk to the doctor and ask. And I encourage people. I teach an advocacy class because people think that they go in and the doctor tells them what to do and you just have to listen. And that's not the case. You're paying them for their opinion. And so you want to collect that information, and you should be able to ask questions. You should be able to have discourse. Yeah, obviously, you don't do it in a disrespectful manner. But if your physician is unwilling to teach you or to put you in touch with the resources to provide you with enough education, then you need to be finding a different provider.
Yeah, that is very good advice. You sound like you've done this before. So you mentioned fluoridation, so I'm going to try something here. I actually got a clip from Dr. Strangelove. It's a movie from 1961. So I'm going to try to do this here. Here you go. Let's see.
Mandrake.
Yes, Dad?
Have you ever seen a commie drink a glass of water?
Well, yeah, I can't say I have, Jack.
Vodka. That's what they drink, isn't it? Never water.
Well, I believe that's what they drink, Jack, yes.
On no account will a commie ever drink water, and not without good reason.
Oh, yes. I can't quite see what you're getting at, Jack.
Water. That's what I'm getting at, water. Mandrake, Water is the source of all life. 7/10 of this Earth's surface is water. Why do you realize that 70% of you is water?
Oh, Lord.
And as human beings, you and I need fresh, pure water to replenish our precious bodily fluids. Are you beginning to understand?
Yes.
Mandrake. Mandrake, have you never wondered why I drink only distilled water or rainwater and only pure grain alcohol?
Well, it did occur to me, Jack, yes.
Have you ever heard of a thing called fluoridation? Fluoridation of water?
Yes, I have heard of that, Jack, yes. Yes.
Well, do you know what it is?
No, I don't know what it is now.
Do you realize that fluoridation is the most monstrously conceived and dangerous communist plot we have ever had to face?
So there you go. That's your fluoridation.
I love that so much, John, because
that,
that comes, and I think that's in line with like the 53 communist goals that Purple for Parents and Rhonda Miller always push. That's the only reason I know that. Oh my God.
That and Mandrake was the British officer that was going over there to get Jackie Boy. Yes, he's lost it. Sort of like in Apocalypse Now when they have to go in and get Marlon Brando. It's sort of a similar movie, but you need to watch it. It's very interesting.
A lot funnier than Apocalypse Now, though.
Oh yeah, it's a satire, but it's about nuclear war. And you think about this. This is during the Cold War in 1960, 61. It was going on, but even back then, they were even joking about fluoridation in the water. And
that was not joking.
But I mean,
it
was what they were making it a joke though.
So Ashley, I had a cleaning today at the dentist, and they were like, "Oh, what kind of fluoride treatment do you want?" I was like, "I don't think I want one." They're like, "What?" Like, it prevents tooth decay. You don't want it? And I was like, "No, I don't think so." They're like, "Well, it's covered. Your insurance is going to cover it." I was like, I'll have to think about it.
Why are we avoiding it though?
But no, this was my point. So I went to the dentist, I think in December of 19, and then the pandemic happened. And then I kind of got off schedule and changed jobs and all that good stuff. And I had a cleaning, my first cleaning from December of 19, I had in July of 24. And there was like, they were like, looks good. Looks good. No cavities, no issues. Gums are healthy. Everything was wonderful. And so today I was kind of like, wow, I went 4.5 years without a fluoride treatment. And, between the water and brushing my teeth, I was pretty good. And I was like, I don't think I want to ingest that. And if Lucy were on the show, she'd say, what fluoride hurts your pineal gland and, your third eye blind.
You just rub some lamb's quarter on it.
This is what I think is so funny. In those 4.5 years, that's when I completely changed who I was working for, got into politics, took my life in a complete different direction. So this might be my conspiracy theory, but getting fluoride every 6 months, people, keeps you in the matrix.
Keeps you in the matrix is good. Well, and Spiro says there's a Carabinet skit with Harvey Korman and Tim Conway, which it would be funny just by those two people being in it. It must be about fluoridation. I'm sorry, I'm not that skilled. I was very impressed that I was able to pull that up, put it on the internet.
Producer.
That was great, John.
Yeah, thank you. I give a standing ovation, but it wasn't that good.
So to answer, let's answer Brad's question about why are we avoiding it.
Yeah,
it's a neurotoxin.
Brad.
Let's not talk about, like, you can go in all different directions, and this is one of the things that really, like, I think it drives a lot of people away when they have questions, is when we go into like these topics that people aren't ready to discuss, like the pineal gland. There is a lot of science to the pineal gland and connection all sorts of things. But let's just talk about some basic, like entry level stuff. The fact that this is a neurotoxin, it is tied to cognitive decline. When you fluoridate the water, and as that clip illustrated, you are 70% ish water. You need to have water. You should be drinking 64 ounces or more of water a day. And so you're taking this in constantly. Some people are going to drink more than others. Dose dependency is a big thing. So you're trying to be healthy. You have pregnant women that are trying to do the right things, and they're being overdosed with fluoride, likely because of the amount that's in the water, because of the amount that they're ingesting, because it attaches, and it also has interference with thyroid and all sorts of things, because it kind of blocks some receptors. But there is such a wide variety of reasons as to why we shouldn't be using this. And we have to go back. And it's just like with a lot of the things, like with tobacco science, with the way that food has changed over the years, where did the money come from to do this? Well, the fluoride that they're using is a chemical waste product. They have nothing to do with it. And they can't just throw it in the ground. So they use it to, quote, clean the water, purify the water, and they use it to, quote, strengthen people's teeth. And they're actually even, if you get too much fluoride, it can cause weakened teeth, and it can cause your teeth to crumble. If you go back and you look at some of the things with the way that Nazis, used fluoride to cause people to be more docile, to be easier to handle, to lower their temperament, decrease their ability to fight back. And
but wouldn't the people who aren't drinking fluoride right now be less docile? Wouldn't there be a clear line of oh yeah, they're
rainwater, man, drink.
Tiffany's on that fluoride again.
Yeah, look at her moment.
No, but and that's
dude, you
that's
call
what
me
I wanted to kind of.
now.
Yeah,
I'm free.
So you got
and I guess does this include unhealthy drinks like pops and stuff? Like say bottled
and soda?
Yeah, is that
so
I don't
a lot
know.
of your I don't think it's in soda, but a lot of your bottled water, I think Fiji and there might be I don't want to say another brand because I'm not sure. You'd have to research it, but most bottled water does have fluoride in it. I don't think your sodas and stuff like that do. But if you make coffee, if you make tea, if you make hot chocolate, if you put water in your soups, you put water in your, I don't know, your boiling potatoes. I know people are really unhealthy.
No, I know, and people avoid water a lot when they're left to their own devices, I think.
Well, I think that's shifting though, and I think people are really trying to take accountability for their own health, especially after the scare of COVID. People watched how, the unhealthy people, Fiji water, there you go.
Is there any fluoride in there? Read the directions.
There isn't. There
Okay.
isn't. But it won't be on your bottle. A lot of times it'll say like electrolytes or whatever.
Is fluoride an electrolyte?
Not technically. I don't think it's an element.
It's an element in there.
But yeah. So I think, and especially when you have pregnant women, and this is a huge concern. These pregnant women are acutely aware of their health in most cases. Like when they're trying to be good moms, you have all these women struggling with fertility issues, and then you're overburdening them with this fluoride, and it's dropping IQ. We did this vast switch over with lead because we thought, oh, this is dropping IQ by 5 points. How much is the fluoride dropping IQ? And I don't think because we have such widespread fluoridation, we can really say that. And if we avoid the sweets and the sugars and all that stuff, then, are these people going to have better oral hygiene? Let's work on prevention rather than medicating for a problem that you may or may not have.
Ashley, I have a picture of me as a baby with my mom in the kitchen, and she's holding me, and I'm like a baby. My aunt is pregnant. They were both smoking cigarettes, and I think my aunt was drinking a beer.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I think it's hilarious. I love both of them, and they are wonderful, wonderful people. I mean that as like a, past generations put current generations through a lot. So I don't know. I feel like it's kind of coddling the
But
responsibility.
those years, Brad, when your mom was in her childbearing years, they used to say things like, have a baby lose a tooth.
No, I'm not saying like, I'm saying that, yeah, it
But I
changes
think
every
that-
time. And I think everybody tries.
But I think that people are living
I don't know
longer.
that fluoride is directly relatable to.
No.
Everything.
I think that to your point about like your mom smoking, holding an infant, blah, blah, blah. I think now people are living longer and you can see the outcomes. It's kind of like what Ashley was talking about. Number needed to treat, number needed to harm, long-term data. And when you have long-term data, you can say, golly, geez, women who took a multivitamin, they were less likely to have babies with cleft palates, or people who had a healthier, am I wrong?
No,
I'm sorry.
comment. It was a comment. It was not you.
No. But when you have long-term data, you take
Read
it
the
in
comment.
and you're able to make better decisions about your life, your health, and the foods you consume and how you live.
Here's the other key part to that. Your mom had the choice to smoke. Your mom had the choice, or your aunt or whoever had the choice to drink that. When we're fluoridating water, you're getting it regardless of whether you're drinking it, because your skin is super absorbent. So you're also absorbing it when you're taking a shower, just like the chlorine in your water. So, I mean, if you choose to do that, if you want to go to the dentist and you want to get your fluoride treatments, by all means, my friend, go ahead and go get them.
No, I mean that both ways. Like, yeah, if you don't want it, that's fine too. Like,
it's about choice and about understanding the risks. And back when, I assume you're probably the same age as I am, or younger maybe.
41.
But back then, did you say 31?
41.
41.
Okay, we're about the same age. I'm still younger than you. But But back then they had all this tobacco science talking about how smoking would help with weight loss, how it would help with anxiety, how it would help with stress. It was good for the baby.
Probably kept baby weight low too. Gain less weight.
Unchecked diabetes, So there's a lot of reasons. I mean, it's very hard to say.
So should those companies be responsible for like misinformation on that part, or no?
I don't even want to touch that right now.
Just hold on a minute. Okay,
Well, I mean,
let's move on to that. Let's move on to the next thing.
So cautious, like, isn't that the
Say it
whole?
again.
Isn't that like why we're being cautious in the first place? Is because like we don't want to place blame on these past companies, so we're trying to be.
The tobacco companies are still being held responsible, and
people are still choosing to do it.
That's what
their choice.
That's
Again, choice.
It's a choice.
Yeah, I
like
think
nowadays, if you saw a pregnant woman smoking, you'd be like, "Wow!" With all the data out there, you're choosing to harm yourself and your child. That's.
I just think that people are jumping to fluoride being the cause of some sort of like behavioral issue or like docile, like to becoming like a sheep. Because like if you say that fluoride causes you to be a sheep,
somebody sounds offended.
I think you're taking it too far. Yeah.
How else do you guys? Okay, use your guys' the term that we use, docile.
Docile.
Yes.
Cows can be docile.
Do you guys?
But not all of them.
Are you guys using docile as like a good thing or a bad thing? I want to know, because like the way that we've been all talking, it just sounds like you're easier to control. And you're not.
That's exactly what they mean, Brad.
Easier to manage, not as aggressive, a little bit more laid back. Like my husband is very docile compared to me, and I don't say that in a bad way because he balances my crazy out, right?
And that's
but
yeah, we need some balance in this house.
All right, so we're gonna shift gears here. We just beat that fluoridation to death. This is the question that we want to know. What question did Ashley ask RFK? Thank you, Tommy, for keeping us on. Maybe you could come in and be the producer of this outfit, because I can't keep the lid on the circus very well. So, Ashley, what kind of trouble did you make today?
I think the reason that you can't keep the lid on the circus is because you stir the pot. But that's just
Oh
my
yeah,
personal
well,
opinion.
He's a ringmaster and a
There.
sideshow, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
That's right. So I have worked for a couple years on something called the VAERS project. And I do continuing education for VAERS Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. And part of the reason I do that is because I did not know for over 10 years of my career that VAERS even existed, that vaccines were anything but safe and effective. And I was administering vaccines on the regular. And so it was really difficult for me to wrap my brain around the fact that there are inherent risks with vaccines and that I was supposed to be reporting and watching for issues. And I couldn't believe how naive I was because there's nothing that's safe. We talked about vitamin D a little bit ago about how you need it, but you can absolutely overdose. You can overdose on water, you can overdose on salt, like all these things that you do need, you can overdose on. And so how could vaccines be safe and effective for everybody? And I just couldn't believe that I fell for that. So I did continuing education on VAERS. And one of the things that frustrates me the most is we do not have the data to do the risk benefit analysis. I think everybody deserves a choice. The right to refuse is the right to choose. And so, I have been working on this for a long time and trying to find solutions so that we can have the data, people can be informed, they can know what to look for. We can develop treatment plans for when people have injuries so that way we can support them and hopefully have better outcomes, decrease healthcare costs, like all these things that are really important to healthcare and decreased healthcare spending. So I sent a proposal over to Dr. James Lyons Weiler, who's very close with RFK, about using the systems we have in place in Indiana to get automated VAERS reporting because it's possible. We have the technology. We've had the technology since 2010. In past episodes, we've talked about that Harvard VAERS study where the CDC paid Harvard Pilgrim Medical School Hospital to do a study. And they developed this automated system, and it showed that less than 1% of adverse events to vaccines were reported. And then that technology was kind of shoved away. So I went today, and not only did I send that via email, but I was able to, and they were not happy about this, but I'm a farm girl. My voice carries very well, and I can be very loud. So, you have these normal press conferences where all these reporters are like shouting out their questions and talking over each other. And so I just went over and talked over them like they did everybody else. And I got my question out and I was able to lay this process out how, vaccine hesitancy is the product of the inability to make an informed decision based on facts. Parents have woken up to that based on what has happened with COVID. They've seen how this all works. And if we want people to make these decisions to choose to vaccinate, we need to provide them with the data that they need to do that, to feel safe and comfortable with it. And I talked about Indiana Health Information Exchange. You don't know it, but all your medical records are being transferred over to an Indiana nonprofit who is then selling access to them to the tune of $17.6 million for at least 2 years. And I'm sure that number is going to grow. Now, most of the time it's doctors that are getting access to this, but the government has access to this. The Indiana State Department of Health has access to this. Your county health departments are getting access to this to do case management. And so, because of all of our health records being over in this Indiana Health Information Exchange going back to like the early 2000s, they have all these records that we would need to do a retrospective analysis of health outcomes on vaccinated versus unvaccinated versus partially vaccinated. We also have, since 2015, the legal requirement of medical professionals to report vaccine administration within 7 business days. So all of our vaccines are recorded in the state registry. That have been given since 2015. So we have the ability to take and match the medical records with the vaccination records and then look and see what is happening. And we also have this tool that was developed by Harvard to do this in an efficient and effective way. And we're still not doing it. So Indiana is the perfect place to do this. So I asked, since Braun is putting into place all of these executive orders, he signed 9 executive orders to make Indiana healthy again. Why aren't we doing this? If vaccination is a priority and public health is a priority, and we've seen an increase in chronic disease and all of these things, why are we not doing the science so that way people can make an informed decision? And if vaccines are causing a lot of the problems that I personally think that they are, that there's enough evidence out there to say that there is, why aren't we just putting that out there and letting people decide how they want to take care of their health? So that was my question. Can we get this initiative started here in Indiana? And he said, that's actually a really good question. And he talked about the same, VAERS ESP system. He mentioned the Harvard Pilgrim study, which is, what VAERS ESP is a product of. So it's going to be really interesting to see. I've had continued conversation with Dr. James Lyons Weiler today. I sent him a text and I said, hey, I wasn't able to talk to Secretary Kennedy today, but I was able to get a question in. And so he's been talking back and forth with Secretary Kennedy. And so it's going to be really interesting. He thinks I need to offer up my VAERS education because nurses can get 3 contact hours towards their license from the education I've created. So there's a lot of interesting things that are going to be coming down the pike. I think we're going to be able to see what's going on, what are the maybe risk factors, because that's another important thing. Like, some people are going to be at higher risk for adverse events, and they should have that knowledge. If you don't have those higher risk factors, then a vaccine might be a good choice for you. So
I have a
that was
question.
my
You just said that people who are at high risk, and you know how you can, I guess, I don't think like inflammation, what is it, your C-reactive protein, your level of inflammation, I don't think that's standard on blood tests.
So your C-reactive protein, it's looking at the active amount of inflammation in your body. And while that could tell us your current baseline or your current situation, for some people, their C-reactive protein may not even need to be elevated. They may have other things going on in their body that just kind of predisposes them to some of these adverse events. And so yes.
My question would be, what are those markers that you would look for?
It's so diverse, and I don't think we don't have a large understanding. I can say with fair comfort that the MTHFR gene mutations, they interfere with your body's ability to detoxify because you can't use your B vitamins very well. And so that seems to be a big factor in that. People who are prone to seizures, people who are prone to some of these other side effects that you're seeing, those are going to be the vulnerable ones. And the other thing, what led me down my journey of stopping vaccinating is our pediatrician. My daughter had pneumonia, and I think she was vaccinated for pneumonia, oddly. She had pneumonia. We got out of the hospital. And it was 3 days follow-up appointment, and he wanted to give her vaccines, even though she was still on antibiotics, still wasn't feeling well. She had been on IV antibiotics in the hospital and oxygen. And I said, no, we're going to wait. And my rationale at the time was that her immune system was already busy. Her immune system was focused on taking care of this pneumonia that she had. So the likelihood that she would actually develop protective antibodies would be low. And what I hear in stories over and over and over again is they take these kids and they get them vaccinated while they're ill, and their bodies just can't handle it. And that might be a case where maybe that C-reactive protein could, I don't think that's a regular test that they're doing. Is that part of it? Is that indication of inflammation just a sign that the body's not going to be able to compensate? Our bodies are so complex, and I don't even think we fully understand the level that the adjuvants, the poisons that promote the immune response. They set the body off and say there's a problem here. I don't think we fully understand how those interact with the body. I don't think we really understand how much of the heavy metals are deposited in our brains, or how much brainstem inflammation. Your brainstem controls your breathing and your heart rate. And one of the things when we were in the NICU with our fourth, I went ahead and did all my research over again, because I thought, she is different than my other kids, and maybe it would be good to vaccinate her. Maybe that would be the smart choice. So I went back through and I did the research over again. And, it was crazy to see in the literature that there wasn't a whole lot of conclusive, information, but it was common knowledge that these babies, these premature infants that were being vaccinated, were having increased apnea and bradycardia. So decreased respirations and breathing, and decreased heart rates. And that's one of the things. The doctor came in, and he and I had known each other because all my kids were premature. And he looks at me and goes, well, Ashley, vaccines don't cause autism. And I said, I don't want to talk about autism. I said, let's talk about cytokine storms. So your body builds an immune response, this is an inflammatory response, and cytokine storms. I said, let's talk about increased apnea and bradycardia. Let's talk about reintubation. Let's talk about increased length of stay. And he paused, and it was a really awkward, pregnant pause. And he just sat there staring off into space. And he came to, and he goes, well, we do see a really strong immune response to Pentacell, which is a 5-in-1 vaccine. And he recognized in that moment that he was causing harm and damage to these babies. And in the same literature that I was reading, it was talking about how these babies, they are going to have these reactions, and they also may need to be revaccinated because their immune system was not there. Plus, they give these babies breast milk, which also interferes with the ability to respond to vaccines. And so it's
mind-boggling.
Thank you.
So my question is, with preemies, they vaccinate preemies while they're in the NICU?
Mm-hmm. A lot of times they wait until towards the tail end of their stay.
Okay.
But the rationale there is that they're so susceptible to these diseases that they have to have it, which is it's the opposite of what they say. They say we need to have this herd immunity because of these populations that can't get vaccinated. But if you look at those populations, patients getting cancer treatment, patients getting immunosuppressants for transplants and stuff like that, as well as these preemies. And my daughter was a micro preemie, 1 pound, 10 ounces, born at 24 weeks. These are the populations that would need, if we were vaccinating and trying to achieve this herd immunity to protect them, those are the ones that would need that protection. But yet we're forcing those vaccinations. And there was a case, the girl was actually from Indiana, but she was seeking care in Ohio, refused heart transplant because she wouldn't get vaccinated. I thought these were the people that we were
herd. We're the herd.
So,
they're the green buffalo, and we're the herd.
So here's a question from Spiro about supplements.
Can you go back to that mutation that you mentioned that affects how the B vitamins work?
It sounds not good. MTHFR. I cannot remember.
Brad knows what that is.
Like, yeah.
Oh, Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah. It's like, it's all that. So you got that. I want to go on to the next thing here.
Thank you,
Spiro.
Spiro's got supplements. What do you think about supplements first off, and then 3 to 5 of them? Or you just say, hey, supplements are a scam. What's up?
No. I always encourage people. Our food is so depleted of nutrients. A good multivitamin, and I'm not talking like the junk you buy off the shelf at the grocery store. You're pooping that stuff out. Like people who pump septic tanks will talk about how they find like this sludge of multivitamins at the bottom, or if they like do porta potties, it's your multivitamin is not getting absorbed. So you can't take just like essential. It is awesome. Gotta love those poop scoopers. Those
that's my office at my job. Quiet.
Yeah, so you need to get a good multivitamin because our food is pretty devoid of nutrients. I do recommend people looking into what their vitamin D levels are and then optimizing your vitamin D levels based on that. Depending on what you are facing as an individual, I may, if you were my patient, I would probably provide you with education on the importance of magnesium. A lot of people are deficient in magnesium, and if you find a good functional medicine practitioner or have questions about comprehensive laboratory testing, I do offer some of those services. Um, but I think it's important to look at what's going on with your body, what your needs are, what your diet is like, because you don't want to be just taking a bunch of supplements and, as Sheldon Cooper would say, having really expensive pee. There's no point to that. So
Yeah.
multivitamin and then probably vitamin D, depending on your labs. Some people may need probiotics unless you're eating a lot of fermented foods. If you can make some sauerkraut, or you can do some kimchi, or maybe some kombucha, things like that. But you want to make sure you're getting good quality brands. And I do recommend organic, because a lot of times if it's inorganic, you're not going to benefit. You're not going to get the nutrients from that.
Wow. Okay. So thanks, Bill. Great question there. And we do try to keep our audience involved with things. I got one question for you, and this would be like doing a mass experiment. You know, they did this mass experiment on us with the COVID. So, I mean, so what would be the danger if we just quit doing all these childhood vaccines for like 2 years or 3 years or 5 years or whatever? Now, you know, because this stuff may not come back, but if it did come back, we could just start the vaccines again. I mean, but that would be a good control. I mean, wouldn't that
Oh, how many deaths are okay? Like, because
no, I mean, well,
no, because Ashley, you brought up like when they do
the
the
harms
tests,
and the
yes, like
balls and the strikes.
What is an acceptable number? Like that is difficult for me to even. Like,
one is too many, right? In any instance,
yeah, but if that's the
any
case,
loss
then,
of life. So hold on, let me give you my answer, and then we can debate about this, because
okay,
it's probably not going to be what you're thinking. Unfortunately, in 2019, there was a global vaccine safety summit, or global vaccine summit, and there was an anthropologist there talking about vaccine safety, and she was talking about the conversion rate from pro-vax to anti-vax and how it's like 500 times higher. One of the things that she really touched on was the fact that the information out there is not misinformation, that we can't provide true risk benefit analysis for vaccines. And herein lies the problem, is because when you don't know that risk benefit analysis, you can't compare which is the lesser of, quote, two evils. We've put ourselves, and these were her words, we've put ourselves in a place where we have become dependent on vaccine immunity. And so it is, and I have this conversation with my kids a lot, because I want them to be critical thinkers, and I don't want them to think that, you know, you can't do one size fits all medicine. You have to be comfortable with the risks that you are taking. You know, first of all, it used to be, and they found this, there's studies by oh, I can't remember her name. She has a heavy European accent.
Ivanka Trump.
No. She Dr. Obacha, I don't know. I'll have to find a link to her information, but they had a bunch of younger women whose babies were really having issues with measles, and the older women weren't having problems. The older women had natural immunity and were passing that immunity through their placenta and through their breast milk. And so that served as a protective measure. But because we have wiped out natural immunity in our population, we no longer have that benefit. So what's the right answer here? You know, people who are unwilling to take the risk of measles, they probably should get vaccinated, but they have to understand what measles is and how to take care of it. And I think for people who are debating whether or not they want to continue to vaccinate, you have to explain these things. You have to explain that either way you choose, you are accepting a risk. Because even the most healthy person who, you know, is an avid runner and does all the things and takes their vitamins, they may have a point where even the flu could be really difficult for them, or they could get a secondary infection. And that's what happens with the measles. The measles itself is pretty innocuous, but it does knock down your immune system. And there is research to talk about the role of vitamin A and vitamin D and the way that these infections can really deplete those stores of those essential pieces to your immune system. And that is part of it. So you're watching for those secondary infections like bacterial pneumonia, as we saw in Texas, which that little girl did not die of, and there are experts that will say this, she did not die of measles. She died of a secondary mycoplasma pneumonia, which has been circulating like crazy. And so seeking care, knowing about hydration, when to go use antibiotics. If you are absolutely, opposed to antibiotics, know the natural ways to treat bacterial infections. But
What
if you
are
are
they?
going to,
What if people can't afford?
Let her finish. I mean, she's helping
No,
people.
no, I'm sorry. I thought there was
What
a
are
pause.
what are good ways to naturally fight infection?
well, first of all, maintaining your health. Second of all, there are a wide variety. And again, this is not medical advice. These are things that you will need to investigate and talk with your healthcare practitioner about. But there are people who diffuse or nebulize colloidal silver. There are people who nebulize iodine. Iodine is a very potent, when you do pre-op scrubs, they scrub you with iodine. It kills a lot of the bacteria and the viruses. And so, hydrogen peroxide is another thing that you can do. And if you catch it early, that is very, very helpful. High dose vitamin C, IV vitamin C. There are a lot of things out there that you can do. Some people use, garlic and ginger and turmeric. But you have to be aware and you have to take accountability. And this is where it comes. And I'm going to bring in what Brad asked about what if they can't afford that? That is part of your risk benefit analysis. And that's why I believe that you should have the choice to vaccinate or to not vaccinate. And if somebody who is unable to be vaccinated because of their age below that 6-month mark right now, and I don't agree with this recommendation, but I'm not a doctor. I don't think that they should be giving these live virus vaccines to babies between the ages of 6 and 12 months, because I think that that does pose a serious risk because of the neurodevelopmental stages that they're at. Besides the fact that for they're holding off on this for a reason. So unless there's a really compelling reason to get this child vaccinated, but when you look at the risks, again, it's this back and forth of, do I risk neurological damage? I can get the measles from the measles vaccine. And this is where we fail in medicine. And this is one of my biggest issues, even when I was working back in heart failure, is we failed to educate our patients on the risks and benefits. I'm the type of person that if you just tell me to do something, I'm not going to do it. I get that honest from my family. But you have to understand the why behind what you're doing. You have to be committed to that. If you're not committed to taking your health into your own hands, maybe a vaccine is the best thing for you. I don't know. I can't make that decision, and that shouldn't be my responsibility. That has to be your decision.
Yep. So Yvonne apparently asked a question that I thought, I don't know what it is. Put it down in there again, Yvonne. And there's no question that's too controversial for the Mouthwash Talk Show, a minty fresh take on politics. We answer all questions, all comers. You bring it, we
Oh my goodness.
answer.
So Ashley, you said something that I thought was really profound. The idea of not getting vaccinated if you're sick. The idea, if your immune system is already under attack and dealing with something else. I mean, like that's a silly, simple concept, but makes a lot of sense. Why would you introduce something else into your body if you're ill on antibiotics, dealing with another illness? Because
I've got about 5 minutes. I've got about 5 minutes. So Yvonne needs to get that question in.
Yeah. So that I don't know. She was here a second ago, but I don't know what I'm looking through here. Lots of things. Blood transfusion, cover them. I don't know what the question was. So I try to pay attention as best I can. So Ashley, while we're waiting and see if Yvonne's still it's up there somewhere. Well, can re-put it.
Yeah, restate it.
It's because the producer was sleeping during the.
That's okay.
Well, anyway, I was going to say, Ashley, tell us where.
Oh, was it explain the big push for pharmaceuticals and mental health service in schools and the communities? There's been a ton of legislation is being passed. 927. 927.
Okay, I was asleep back then. Good job,
okay.
Tiffany.
I'm going to do my best.
There it is. Okay, here it is. There's a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pharmaceuticals are easy. Take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning, right? They have very specific and pretty measurable effects in most people. It's very easy to control the situation with a pharmaceutical. It is very difficult to control an individual's behavior and lifestyle choices. And so for physicians who are being reimbursed on some of these metrics, whether it be lab values and things like that, pharmaceuticals are very easy, besides the fact that I think that for the most part, up until probably the last 5 to 10 years, people have wanted the pharmaceuticals because they don't have to change their diet. They don't have to change their lifestyle. They can just take 2 aspirin and call them in the morning. So that's a big push for that. Ozempic is a perfect example. So, and that ties right into mental health services. When you talk about, we're in a very sad state, and I believe it's because of the lack of accountability, connection, and focus on families. And this is my personal opinion. This is not the opinion of Hoosiers for Medical Liberty, but this is my personal opinion. The multi-generational family is imperative to the survival of a lot of our values as human beings, because you have to care for each other. The old care for the young care for the old. And it's this village that you have that takes to raise children and be successful, to not have to go outside of that. These are hopefully people that you can love and trust. And so when we have this breakdown of these relationships, there's no longer the ability to talk to each other. Now, granted, a lot of the older generation has a hard time opening up about their feelings. But I grew up in a pretty old school family, and we all knew that we had each other's backs. I grew up in an amazing situation where I got to spend a lot of time with my grandparents. I got to spend a lot of time with my aunts and uncles because we're a farming family. And my cousins were always around. And so having those relationships, those bonds, and always knowing that somebody had your back, that connection, the human touch is also very important. And we've lost that. So people are seeking out that connection because they don't have it anymore, right? It's failed relationships. And we watch this, plus the accountability aspect of, I know that I'm doing something wrong, I need to do better. That is a big part of this whole mental health. I have a family member who's a mental health counselor, and she uses her mental health issues as an excuse to act poorly, where it used to be like, you need to start behaving better, like, let's work on this, or why are you behaving in this particular way? And so it's an excuse. And then there is the darker side of things, where when you put people on these antipsychotics, these selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs like Prozac and Paxil and things like that, they do become more manageable. It's an easy way to fix their problem and make them feel good. You get them coming back into your office, makes them docile. Yeah. And it gives an excuse for a lack of the accountability and doing the hard work, because let's face it, humans have to work through their problems. That's why talk therapy, even though I despise it, is so helpful, because it helps you process.
Wouldn't fluoride in the water help them be more docile?
Yeah, fluoride.
Like, it sounds like they all need fluoride in the
Brad,
water.
you are so close,
You ever see a
Brad.
commie? You
Brad,
ever see a librarian drink
I've got
water?
homework. I've got homework for you. There's a book called The Giver. I want you to go read it. It was assigned schoolwork in like 7th or 8th grade. Go read that book, The Giver.
Book. That is a yes.
I know.
I put it in the chat. That's the name of the book,
Okay.
The Giver.
All right.
So, Ashley, how can people? You mentioned the Hoosiers. What is your thing? I'm sorry.
Hoosiers for Medical Liberty. That's okay.
Hoosiers for Medical Liberty. They can help you out by looking that up, right? Donate a little
Yeah,
$2 and
yes, please. I work so hard to advocate for everybody. It's pretty much a volunteer gig. And so
yeah.
keep the wheels on the bus, my friends, and go to h4ml.org and click on that donate button on the side. Hopefully, we're going to see some things change here in Indiana that's going to have national impact. We've been working really hard on legislation the last 4 years and had several successes. You can see that we've put out another that didn't make any sense.
I think she's talking about, I put The Giver in there. That's the title of the book.
That's the
The
title of the book,
Giver
yeah.
stuff.
But made some really big changes as far as respect to decline vaccination. We still got a lot of work to do, but go smash that donate button and help us out. Really appreciate it. And then my website is wtajourney.com. That's my personal website if you have questions or want to look into some functional testing for education on nutrition, lifestyle change. So
all right, do me a favor, after the show you can put those links in the chat, and then people, if they watch the show, they can see it and go to the thing and all that stuff. So we thank you for taking this time. I think it was very very educational, and I knew you'd be you're sharper than you were 4 years ago. That's for but you were sharp then. So
I know. Get better with age.
We're all receptive.
And some things have played their way out. So on things.
Yeah,
so.
I'm actually with my aunt, and she's in the other room laughing at me when I said better with age. So.
Oh yeah, funny. Well you're not even 40 yet. Come on, give me a break. It's like.
So Ashley, last question: if you are just getting over COVID, how would you rebuild your immune system?
I would check my vitamin D levels, make sure that they're in line. I would cut the sugar. I would, just eat good foods, maybe some magnesium, and just work on decreasing that systemic inflammation. Make sure that spike is flushing out of your body.
Yep. So I've put the links in there. You got h4ml.org. Go there. Give money. We need it. We need it. We need it. Thanks for coming on. And let's see. Yvonne says, hey, Dr. Stock. Well, I think we could get him in 2 weeks. Yeah, I think I could probably get him. I saw him last night. He was down at the front porch Patriots and all that. So yeah, we had an all-star cast there last night to listen to Carlin Yoder.
I can get him on the show. He said yes. He said yes
okay.
2 weeks ago.
Well, when the session dies down a little bit and it starts, let's get him on. It'd be good. But Ashley, thank you so much for coming on, and I feel healthier just listening to you. So I'm definitely not drinking any water, and my wife could attest to that. So I'm good.
Reverse osmosis or distilled.
They put it in the beer. All right, so we're going to go ahead and break over to the conspiracy theory. We don't have our famous person here, but thanks a lot for coming in, and we'll have you on again.
Hey y'all, it's time for the conspiracy theory, so you better get your tinfoil hat out and let's see what's going on this week.
All right, Brad felt compelled to put his mask on from good old COVID days. So
but it's a new mask. He has a large.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of supply of them. He's got a bunch of them. So
Brad, they haven't stopped making masks.
Yeah,
you haven't stopped buying them either.
Well, and I mean, how do you guys know that this isn't for allergies? Like,
there's a
lot of Are you allergic to cats?
There's a lot of dander in this apartment. Okay, so
there's what dander?
Dander. Yeah, pet dander.
Get out.
We got some dander.
Oh,
so look, we got Thomas Ogden, a good supporter here in the Wayne Township area. He says, thank you, Ashley, for coming on. It looks like it looks like he's a doctor. So there you go. But he's a librarian by day and doctor by night. So that was an interesting deal. So Brad, what do you think? You've seen Dr. Strangelove, right? Lucy, have you seen that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love
Tiffany,
that.
Have you seen that movie?
Yeah, Brown Lucy has not. I know. Is that at the end where somebody's riding on a
yeah, that's Slim Pickens is riding on the nuclear
So one of my college professors made us watch it before we graduated. Like,
Hey, is this true, Brad? Is that true? Are you
passing out condoms at the library? No.
Yeah, come on,
No.
Tommy. Come on,
what
Tommy.
section would they be in, Brad?
Yeah, never mind.
What, like the free condom section? We don't have a free condom section.
Yeah, you charge for them.
I love that trick question there.
You charge for them, yeah. They don't give out free ones because they charge for them. All right, well, that's a good conspiracy.
You're in the dispensers in the bathroom.
So,
yeah, exactly.
So who's got a conspiracy theory? Anybody actually got one? Lucy's not here.
I do, and when Brad was saying something about the antidepressants would make people more docile, and so Brad, and I said you were so close. I mean, if just imagine where we would be, and this is my big thing. We have a population of young adults who are not. They are underemployed. They have gig jobs. They're not, contributing to their 401k. They don't have dental insurance.
Can't buy a house.
They're not, doing a lot of preventative health care. The cost of rent is sky high. So, they don't have the best jobs. Rent is high. Inflation is high. They're just
painting a nice picture here, Tiffany.
Yeah, really.
They're just trying to get by, but I want you to get the big picture. So you got these people, they're not putting away money for retirement. Life is expensive. So down the road, when these people are due to retire, they'll probably depend on the government to take care of them. What's going on with Social Security? What are their lives going to be like? Because they've lived lives where they didn't have to do the hard work. They didn't have to do the hard work, but they were also so many other factors around them that they're ingesting that's kind of making them more docile people. So the idea that the American society is going to progress, and you're going to have your haves and your have-nots, but if you're not in tune with the toxins that are out there, it'll get to the point where the have-nots, they're going to be really chill with it, just because they've been programmed, they've been made docile. So that's the only way they will be able to get by. When I see young people and they don't have a really good plan for the future, it really scares me, because they're going to end up on the government dole 40, 50 years down the road. And the thing is that Americans are living a very long time. If you are, given what we know, if you were 15, 20 years old, I'm sure all of us would make different choices, but there are a lot of young people who aren't being put into situations. They're not being challenged. They're not being given information so that they can make the best choices for their long-term futures, their long-term lives. It is one of my biggest issues in America right now, is what we're doing to young people. And I'm going to,
that is well, you say that, and then you see something like, Charlie Kirk up at Purdue. Did you see the size of that crowd up there of, college kids and young people? And there was even some old people in that audience. It was humongous, that crowd was. So there is definitely, I think there's a stirring in that age group of people that want to learn more and maybe want to plan.
They don't know they're under attack. They've got them questioning. They've got them going to school. All of a sudden, math has options. Like, is 2 + 2 4? I don't know. Does it feel like 4? Does it look like 4?
Math is constant.
No. Math
No.
should be constant, but we're manipulating the world around them so that, we're not encouraging them to be the best and the brightest students. We're having these conversations about their feelings, and we're catering to their feelings, and we're not putting their academic needs first. The disservice.
So we need more discipline.
Yeah, and respect.
Okay. So can't we turn that switch a little bit then?
The discipline switch?
Yeah, I think we should bring back paddling in college.
Think about the number of young people who've never had personal finance. They don't understand about investing. They don't or the number of people. Oh my God, the food that young people are eating. The
concept
that you can have food that's more nutrient dense if you could stay home for 45 minutes and cook. The way that they're spending their money comes in their hand and out. I mean,
should teachers be able to cuss at kids?
If necessary, if you use it appropriately.
Yeah. So there you go. You got to preach it. from Yvonne. So you're preaching it. So what was it? Oh, the biggest lie they told me was you could be anything you wanted when I was little. It's like I'm not gonna be no ballerina. So don't even try to tell me I could be a ballerina.
But Johnny Tariff, he could do a pirouette if he needed to.
No, I'd fall over. My midbrain shot from all the fluoridation.
You decided at the age of 4 that you wanted to be a ballerina.
Yeah, it's like, well, when I was like 5 foot in the 5th grade, that was like ballerina was fleeting. It was fleeting. That never.
You're not mentoring young people. You're doing the world a disservice.
Yeah, I know. It's like, but anyway, you can't be. People don't believe that lie. And the other lie they told me in science was everything evolved from blue-green algae, which I don't know is true or false, but they told us it was true. So there you go. That's my 2 biggest lies when I was a kid that they told me. So anyway, Brad, you got anything?
Yeah, I had one of my my lovely predictions of doom that I have sometimes. And well,
that picture with you and Micah in it, you look like you are a hostage.
Oh yeah, look at this! You got it framed and everything.
Is it you gonna get it signed? Why do you look like a hostage?
We had fun with that.
Autographed this for me.
Oh, look at that!
It was Brad, I love you.
It was.
You got it printed that fast? Wow.
No, thank you for acknowledging that. We thought it was hilariously quick too. Like we appreciate, Micah.
Was it like Disney when you go on the ride and then when you go through the gift shop, your picture was there?
Sorta, yeah.
Well, it was like Bill Maher going to have dinner with Trump. That was sort of what yours was, Brad. It was like,
oh yeah. I mean, it was funny. Like when I didn't realize we were actually going to go into his office. I didn't know what to expect. So I didn't realize we were going to go into his office. And when you walked in, I was like, Jesus, this is your freaking office. Like,
where were you? Where were you?
It is just.
Where were you to the point you go into this large room and you're like, this is your office? I'm going to start with you were at the State House.
Yeah, it was his office.
Yeah, I know. Like you knew you're being facetious. You knew.
But let's see. Were you there for the Red for Ed, Red for Ed thing, right? But you're not a Red for Ed. You're a librarian for Ed.
You're
libraries.
Same.
Yeah,
same people.
We were supposed to wear black.
Same fight.
Yep. Basically, same fight.
All right. Well, what's your doom and gloom? I want to hear your doom and gloom.
Oh, so with all the property tax stuff, and it's funny because I have a lot of thoughts on. And Andrew Ireland has the worst amendment that I'd ever heard in my whole life. I am mad about him and his.
They've got him into he's the Kyle Walker of the House.
I mean, the thing about the punishing the schools. No.
On the
But so Braun already signed the budget, right?
Oh yeah,
he already signed SB1.
He signed SB1. He signed them all, I think, as far as I know.
So he's done. He's done in Indiana, right? Like he's either one term, he's not going to win.
People don't remember 3 years from now.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
My thought was this happened to Pence.
Yeah, but he got vice president.
Pence was not going to win a second term.
No, but he was vice president.
That's what's going to happen to Mike Braun.
Oh, really? Huh.
Whose vice president is he going to be? J.D. Vance's?
I don't know.
Oh, God, I didn't even think of that. What if Trump... Oh.
You just ruined Tiffany.
I almost made it through the whole show. If Trump didn't get a third term, but
Yeah, so Yvonne is
there's a lot of avenues on that one. But, honestly, I thought it was going to be something like J.D. Vance, he gets in trouble for, something, and he has to resign. And they have to appoint somebody else.
Okay, Spiro Agnew, he is not. Okay.
No.
But,
all he'll have to do is say something like, Trump's not that good at golf.
Who said that?
If
J.D. Vance said that out loud, boom, he's gone.
So I don't think Braun would ever be anyone's vice president.
Here's the stock market neophytes. We got a challenge, open challenge to Vance and Trump. We and my partner Gary take them on.
Oh, heck yes.
We've been having that on the show for a year.
Either way, that leads into Micah becoming governor.
You better hope he doesn't go for
it was just-
senator. Although Carlin Yoder is really making a move on that. He seems like he's very popular. And I think he's a nice guy. And he's not Amish, but he's got a Yoder.
But that's a long time, though.
He used to be. He was one of those Mennonite.
Actually, the story is his grandpa was, and that grandpa left at 14, and his dad was, he's a second generation removed from Mennonite and Amish. So,
do you know who his sister is?
No.
Dr. Juanita Albright, who is on the HSC school board. She's actually the school board president.
What? Wow. So that's how you got connections. Okay, I got you. So that's your gloom and doom, Brad?
Yeah, because once Braun takes whatever dumbass appointment.
Okay, well,
wait a minute. So the gloom and doom. Oh, that Micah would become governor.
It was just one of those. I'm like,
dude. I mean, I don't want to be doomy-er and gloomy-er. I mean, every day that goes by, like Micah is a tic-tac.
I was being kind of jokey on this one.
Tic-tac away from being governor every day.
Honestly, though, like Micah,
TikTok.
But Braun, like, he's signing a bill nobody likes. Micah even said to veto it earlier, so it's like, again, he's just figuring out
Micah knows where he came from.
Yeah, it's like, and I see you don't want to have a feud with the Senate and all that. And the governor's got limited power compared to the legislature. But, and he said, oh, well, it's just not you.
Ron ran on it, man.
But he should have vetoed it. If they're going to make him override it. But I don't know. I don't know. He seemed very, at our meeting last Wednesday.
But what would a veto mean? Would a veto mean that he doesn't agree with it, that he was not able to provide direction and influence? That
there's problems with.
I'd say like fix it. Like
that's what I think. Send it back and try again, or make him override it, because I don't think they could have done it override. So I think there was some backroom deal.
You had them working until like 12:30. Like it was
this thing was done months ago. Nobody knew it. They just had to go through the motions of all this stuff. There's so many cities, and Tiffany's council up there. We need money from the property taxes. Do you get money from the property taxes in your council, Tiffany?
On council?
For the council, does property taxes go to your stuff? Don't you have to take care of fire departments and different things? Or
yeah, that's what the city funds, first responders.
Yeah. So how much are you going to lose from the property tax? Do you know? I'm putting on the spot.
I don't know. It's funny because I was chatting with some people I trust, and we talked about it. I think that whatever is passed, that we need to get together our Hamilton County assessor, our treasurer, our city of Fisher's comptroller, and we need to understand what the financial ramifications are. Fiscal year 26 and 27, and project out and understand how, differences in funding for municipalities, how that's going to affect us and how we need to plan.
Now, would you begin together with Carmel and the other, don't you have Noblesville up there?
Councils? I mean, we all share the same assessor and, county treasurer. So it would be good, but somebody needs to have the conversation sooner rather than later, so that when we get into the budget season, everybody understands. I think if there's a flexibility to increase the local tax rate, people need to understand what that funding goal is and how we're going to get there. This isn't a conversation when we're signing our local budget, because that's not fair to people. We really have to understand the ramifications of the new bill.
Yeah. So, okay. So, I'll do my conspiracy here. So, since I've been, a little upset with the Republican Party, and Brad, you've really, convinced me that the Democrats are good. I mean, you come on the show, you take all this. I'm going to be switching over to the Democrat. Tiffany, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to switch to parties. I'm just going to have to switch over to the Democrats, because I'm never going to win here in Marion County as a Republican. And, it's all that stuff. So, yeah. What, Tiffany? Why are you clapping?
Conservative Democrat. Look at you.
Yeah. Well,
congratulations.
Yes, all that stuff. I'm all for.
So you're going to take on Andre in the primary.
I want to be. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good idea. No, I don't think I want that. No.
Wait, is there still a 2 primary rule even for Democrats?
Oh yeah, I'm sure that they'll. Well,
I feel
with
like
the
you can
new.
just walk into a
Oh,
race
wait
and
a
be like,
second. We
"Yeah,
didn't.
hey,
We
here
didn't
go."
play my. Hold on. I got to play this clip here. Hold on. I got this clip. So this
Strike
is
one,
this.
Julie
This is
McGuire.
part.
Strike two. Oh, no veto. Strike three.
What's that?
Did
What's
you
it
see
about the no
Spiro,
veto?
Spiro wrote? Spiro, what are you getting at?
Oh, I get it. If he doesn't want to be beat again, he got beat by Julie McGuire, got a Smika, and no veto.
No, it's going to be like.
Oh, what's going to be strike 3? He calls that a strike
Yeah, he's
3.
like, what is going to be strike 3?
So here you go. This is what I knew I was going somewhere with this changing over the parties. Okay, so here, this is what I'm calling the John Schmitz rule about caucuses and things. So you listen to this tape.
Oh yeah.
This is your state senators, Tiffany, right here. So here, listen to this.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. This amendment would just remove some language that had to do with political party appointments and political party caucuses. Happy to answer any questions, would ask for your support.
Mr. President, thank you, members of the Senate. This is one that my friend Senator Walker and I disagree about. I understand the amendment's going to pass. I just want everybody to understand. County chairman stopped me on the back just a little bit ago and said, "Oh, this is a terrible idea. Like, you got to take this amendment." This is what we're doing here today, just so everybody understands. So when somebody wants to vote for me on election day that lives outside of my district, when they go and cast that vote, they are committing a level 6 felony when they do it. But with this amendment, what we're saying as public policy in Indiana now is this. When someone dies in office and we have a caucus, if somebody that lives outside of that district is an ineligible voter, we're saying that it's okay for them to tell the people in that district who their candidate's going to be. I am devoid of understanding that public policy. So it's a felony on election day, but we're okay saying this person's going to, look, this issue's been baked. I'm good. Every county chairman, every district chairman, they're taking away all the power. But in a political party that is trying to give government to the people, I do not understand why we would do this amendment. I understand it's going to pass. God bless them. Good. That is not good public policy.
So that is the John Schmitz rule. And what it does is it gives more power to the county chairs to appoint more people in there to get rid of whoever they want and to get whoever they want elected. And you saw how they snuck that in there. Kyle Walker didn't even say what it was. If Aaron Freeman wouldn't have stood up, no one would have ever known that they had just made both parties, in Democrat, Republican, both parties, it's going to be more difficult to get it, like he said, to get the voice of the people and somebody else that's in the party through the party system. And why did we do that? Why did we make it even? Because they appointed 300 people in my caucus to make sure I didn't win, and those people, I've not seen a handful of those 300 people. They just came and they voted and they left.
Because this was on Slick Woody's, and it's like
yeah. Well, he let me use his
codified cronyism. It is.
Yeah. It's just so that's why I'm basing my
thing. That are going to vote your way.
So I was thinking about going to the Libertarian, but
one of the things that was interesting, if you two are ever part of a caucus anytime soon, when I was part of a caucus years ago, we took muffins to all the PCs and the vices that had a vote. And it was very interesting, ultimate door knocking. It was very, very interesting to understand people's affiliation to the party. And I'll just leave it there.
Yeah. Well, I remember that was when Kyle Walker got caucused in, when he took over Merritt's seat. You ran for that. Is that correct, Tiffany? Or would you?
Yeah, I think so. I think I was part of that.
Yeah, you were one of it. And it was also Jim
Morgan. Yeah.
Jim Morgan, yeah, he was on
He'd be a good one to have on the show. He's powerful.
He's a good dude. So at that one, we were out in the lobby. We couldn't go in the caucus room, but we were out in the lobby, and I'm cracking jokes and laughing at people coming in there, and they kicked me out of the lobby. They didn't want me in the lobby. I should have taken that hint at that point and then turned Democrat back then. But, I've only been a Democrat for 20 minutes now, or however long this is, and I'm just going to see how it is being a Democrat for a while. I mean, next week I might be, independent. Who knows? I just don't know. I just don't know. So we'll just see how things go. I do have a meeting with Natalie Goodwin, the Marion County chairman, on the 22nd. Yeah, at 2:00. I requested the meeting on April 2nd, and she's worked me right in. It only took 20 days, but I got to laugh because Spiro asked 2 months ago for a meeting, and his is on the 23rd. So Spiro, I know you're still in the audience there. Ha ha ha! I got a meeting before you did. I'm way more important. She only made me wait around for 20 days before she could make a phone call or anything to me. So our meeting, we've got a meeting. We're going to talk about things. So Brad, what should I ask? Tiffany, what should I ask? Give me some questions.
So I think a good question is, how can I make a difference here in Marion County? But bigger than that is, I think we need to have Curtis on. And
he sent me a
and I think the question to Curtis is, given everything that happens in politics, fundraising, cronyism, people, setting people up, and how can people be successful? How can people be successful in local politics?
Yeah, well,
John says it all the time about George Carlin. It's a club, and
it's a club, and we ain't in it. So, Brad, what questions would you ask?
Can you validate that I had a good idea, though?
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. I mean,
I needed that.
It's very good. It's almost. I pull up a video about it, but I don't have time. So, hey, we had clips tonight. This show was really. We really were.
You're like Johnny Spielberg.
Yeah, Johnny Spielberg here. We got E.T. phone home. It's like we got the Bullwinkle back there. It's all going. And I got the chickens in the background. You're probably thinking, why did he switch into the chickens? Well, my chickens, my baby chicks are hatching as we speak. Got one pecking out. Yep.
You got one pecking out?
Yep, he's pecking out. He's coming out.
They know how close they came to being eaten?
Yeah.
Eggs?
I don't know. Now that's a whole nother show about fertilized eggs. We're not. Yeah,
wait. Didn't egg companies make a shit ton of money this past quarter?
Yeah, because they got to kill all the chickens. Yeah, there's
they posted record profits or something like that.
Well, yeah. Well, see, this is how it works, Brad. So you have insurance on these flocks of chickens, and you get subsidies so they get paid for the chickens that get destroyed, and then the egg prices go up to cover the difference. So yeah, hey, what came first, the profit or the egg?
I just mean, we're all just watching it, right?
Hey, do you think the egg farmers are going to run against Todd Young
Republicans
again?
And Democrats, we're both watching the same story go by, right?
Yeah, I don't know about John Russ, but I know that Jim Banks was not happy with me because he did not endorse me for county chairman. So
yeah, but do you think Russ will primary Young?
I don't know. He
hasn't taken down his billboards.
Well, but he's eligible now. He's run in the 2 primaries. And when I talked to him, he didn't divulge what he was going to do, but he had something he was going to do. At that time, he was waiting for his Supreme Court, because they took that deal all the way to the Supreme Court. Well, the Supreme Court did not hear it. So at that time, he was waiting for that to be done. But, he's got a show on Freedom 95 on Saturdays at 1. And I'm probably going to go back on there again. And do an update because a lot of stuff goes on. I mean, it just happens. But yeah, he's a decent guy. And what really irritates me with our party is they could not work with him. And all they did was just destroy him. I mean, basically just what they do to everybody that's not in the club, Brad. That's how they do it. And it's the Democrats the same way. Carson's got a challenger. His name's George something or other, and he's an attorney. He's about 30 something, and he's on the TikTok, and he's out there making waves. But
TikTok.
Yeah, he's on the TikTok. Yeah, he's TikTok.
So he's coming out in the primary.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and he's he's pretty well spoken. He's, like I said, he's an attorney. He's
Is he? Do you know his ethnicity? Not that it matters.
He's Hispanic, but he's probably second generation. So he's, but he's going against the establishment, and this is the same people that shot at Kat Ping's car when she ran against Carson. So, they don't, let's put it this way. They ain't playing. in Marion County, Andre Carson is the prince of Marion County for the Democrat Party. Joe Hogsett is the court jester. And by the way, Saturday, he was either drunk or going to be drunk or coming off of being drunk. He was not a well person. And when I asked him about some stuff, he goes, well, I don't pay attention to any of that stuff.
Where did you see him?
He was at Belmont Beach, and I did not even go over to talk to him. Usually I'll go talk. I stood there, and he came and talked to me, but there was only about 20 people there. So I just thought it was interesting. I mean, of course, he comes up to me, Brad, says, what are you running for now? And I should have said, I'm not running for anything, but I'm running from something. But I didn't have my wits about me. I couldn't do it. So I had a lot of, but we had a conversation, but like I said, he's like, well, I don't pay attention to any of that stuff. I asked him about something and said, I don't know about that. I just, so, and I think he's going to run again. I really think he's going to run again. I can't believe that, but he just doesn't seem to be, and he does a good job going out and glad handing and kissing the babies and giving little speeches and stuff. He doesn't, he's sort of accepted that way, but we'll see. But anyway, that's sort of the story. But maybe we can get this George guy on the show. Brad, you fellow Democrat, can reach out to him. I'm gonna catch up with him, see if I can get him on there. A lot of Democrats are scared. They're not brave like you, Brad. Not brave at all. So anyway, that's the news. I'm now a Democrat. We'll see how long it lasts. And if you keep laughing at me, Brad, I'll quit the Democrat.
No.
You should say welcome aboard.
Everybody should watch. Take a look at Whitty's show from tonight. I got him so mad. It was like the best part of my night. I just wanted to announce that on this show. That was freaking hilarious. He got going.
He dropped the F-bomb. He's trying to make it through a whole show.
He put it in the fifth and he put the pedal down. That was hilarious.
He deserves it. He's making fun of your dating and stuff. I mean,
he said something like, you want your own personal freedom or something like that. Well, that's tough. It was just like he didn't care. He was like, I don't trust you to make the right choice.
Yeah, it's like it's funny. Well, that's he keeps it raw and real for sure on that stuff.
Yeah,
so.
That was funny.
All right, kids. I don't know what happened to Lucy. Hopefully she's okay. This would have been a great show for her with all the vaccine stuff. It's probably a good thing she wasn't here. She would have blown a gasket.
Yes.
She would have been nodding.
No, I think it would have been great.
She would have agreed with all of it.
Yeah. So, well, we hope that she's doing all right. We hope she's doing all right. So, all right. Well, hey, I think I still got the winter time up. So spring's coming. Spring's coming along. We got new chickens, and I'm getting 3 eggs a day. So hey, I'm rich. I'm like,
It's like
don't even know what to do. I sell my eggs to Jason Hammer and Crystal Hammer. I'm their egg dealer. So
everybody needs one.
Oh yeah, they're just quality eggs. Like that ones are like ostrich eggs. They're so big, it's crazy. The chickens walk around limping. Anyway, that's enough.
John.
Hey, bye everybody. See ya.